I think that...
Good evening, Rabbi. We're going to talk tonight about something very important, one of the most important institutions that we have in the Jewish people, which is marriage, getting married. One of the most important mitzvot, right? You know that there's a famous story about this, right? Chizkiyahu Melech.
Okay.
What happened was that Chizkiyahu was a big tzaddik. He did the big teshuvah. His father was big rasha, and his father was who? Achaz, right? Achaz was a big rasha. So came Chizkiyahu Melech and did teshuvah, totally did teshuvah from all the sins of Achaz. You know what they say, right? You know what he did? When he became the king, he took the body of Achaz, the body, he dragged it on the ground, to show everybody, to devazotato, to disgrace his father like that. Can you imagine? Oh, today what they will tell you, how can you do this? Kibbud Avayim, you have to honor your father. You have to honor a Rasha like this? You cannot honor Rasha, Rasha, you have to devazotato. So what did he do? He took a chamor, donkey, he dragged his father's body on the ground like that to show everybody. He made a parade. That's what he did, So he did a total teshuvah, Chizkiyahu, everything good. But in the end, what happened was that right before he was supposed to die, after he ruled already for a long time, he fixed everything up very, very good. What happened was that came to him Yeshayahu Navi, Isaiah, right, came, and told him, he said, get ready because you're going to die, you're going to be dying, and you're not going to live. What does that mean? And you're going to die in this world, not live in the next world. Bah! So he's coming and saying, Chizkiyahu, what are you talking about? What? I was big tzaddik, I did everything according to Hashem, and still I'm gonna, no olam hazeh, no olam haba, nothing, not this world, not the next world. How can I be such a thing like that? So told him Yeshayahu Navi, told him, because you didn't get married. Hey, where are you? You didn't get married, you have no portion in the world to come. So we see from there, a person who doesn't get married has no portion in the world to come.
What if you were married at least once?
That's something else. We're not talking about that. Even though there's a mitzvah also to continue after that as well. Right, pruvu. So even if you did, let's say the mitzvah pruvu the first time, the first marriage you had, let's say you had already one son, one daughter, minimum, right? Minimum.
Yeah.
Still, it's a mitzvah to continue according to Chachamim, according to rabbis. The rabbis decreed, get married again and bring more children. If you can, if you have the strength to do it. The body is strong enough. Not everybody's strong enough when they get over a certain age. It's already...
Not everybody's Anthony Quinn.
Whoever that is, I don't know exactly who that is, but... Anyway, the point is, right, that Chizkiyahu never got married. So, the Chazal ask, why didn't you get married? What's with you? What, you're such a big tzaddik like this, big king like this, chacham, tzaddik, and you don't want to get married? What's it with you? What, you're afraid of the cost of the chuppah, I heard that now they're taking at Elite Palace $220 for a plate. Maybe that's the reason why he didn't want to get married. He didn't want to pay $220 for a plate.
The Michael take it also for him. Elijah take it 25.
I thought the rabbi took the most.
Which rabbi?
The guy that does the matrimony.
No, we're talking about per plate, $220. You understand?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
That's ridiculous.
I remember 10 years ago it was like $150. Now $70 went up. My God.
It's probably leftover sushi and leftover mushroom salad.
Yeah, they throw it in the garbage. It goes in the garbage. So maybe that's the reason why Chizkiyahu didn't want to get married. He wanted to get married Elite Palace, $220. Too much money, whatever. But I'm joking. But the point is like this, right? That they asked the Chazal, why didn't he want to get married? What's the problem? So they say the reason was because he went to a certain Navi, prophet, and the prophet told him, your son is going to be big Rasha, Ubeduri, Barbina, So he didn't want to have such a big Rasha like this, like a son. Because what's going to be, he's going to become also the king, And so, just like his father was Rasha king, now I'm going to have a son also, another Rasha, Barbinam,
Oh, he predicted it?
This prophet told him, your son is going to be big Rasha.
I think he had two boys.
In those days, it's true. In those days, what does it mean, Rasha? It means like, Avodah Zarah, Barbinam, idolatry, idol worship. That's what it meant. I'm not talking about, that he, what do you call it, he doesn't keep some rabbinical laws. We're not talking about that. He's a Rasha, Avodah Zarah, everything, the whole thing. The whole thing. So anyway, right, they say, by the way, the Chazal, that a person who transgresses Avodah Zarah, it's like he's breaking the whole Torah, idolatry, he believes in idolatry. He worships idolatry. It's like every part of the Torah you uprooted. You destroy the whole Torah when you do that. That's what it is, right? One of the biggest sins that there is. So he didn't want to have a son like that. So he said, you know what? Instead of having this big headache, having a son like this, he says, I just didn't want to get married. And that's it. By the way, there's a Gemara also in Shulchan Aruch brought down that if a person wants to just learn Torah all day, let's say like Ben Azai,
Ben Azai.
right? Ben Azai, he wants to be like Ben Azai.
Yeah.
He wants to learn Torah all day. He doesn't want to get married. Doesn't want to have children. Why? Because he wants to learn all day Torah, nothing else. A Reshut Biyado, he can do that if he wants. He can do it. Says in Shulchan Aruch. So then why was Chizkiyahu punished if that's the case?
Yeah. So why was
That's the question, right?
Yeah.
So probably, there's two answers to this question. I can tell you right now. One answer is because Chizkiyahu was a melech, So what does that mean? You have to have somebody who's going to be after you, melech. So you have to have a son, Otherwise, you're destroying the malchut. Malchut bet David, you're destroying it, Which is a very bad thing to do.
Yeah.
That's one thing, right? You have to have a melech. Continues your kingdom, right? This is not America. Every 4 years they switch different president. It doesn't work like that in Israel, right? It's for life. When you become king, you're king for life. That's the way it works, right? So he didn't want to get married because of this. He wanted to. But what's the other reason why he was punished? Because since he was melech, he couldn't learn Torah all day. He has to take care of the malchut. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of administration that he has to do. You can't just sit in the Bet HaMidrash all day when you're melech. You have to be involved with the people. So therefore, he wasn't like Ben Azai. Ben Azai was all day in Torah. You know what I mean? That's why they say, by the way, that what hurts a person who's a real Talmid Chacham? What hurts him the most? To give him a public job. Tzibur. Tafkid Tziburi. That's what brings him down, because he doesn't have time for Torah anymore. So the worst that you can do for him is to give him a job to be president. Because you're going to destroy his Torah like that. That's what it is, right? This is what they say about. By the way, about.
So Rashi Israel, it's a punishment.
Yeah, you're right. It is. What they say, right? Somebody told me, who knows about this. They said that when you become Rav Rashi, in Israel, how much time do you have to study Torah every day? Maybe an hour. The rest of the time, you're going to all kinds of tekassim, all kinds of ceremonies, all kinds of, right, this ceremony, the weddings and funerals, and, this government the function, and this function, that function. You have no time to study Torah, all day. They're bothering you. So being Rav Rashi, in some way, it's also like a punishment, That's why, by the way, that they say there was two big chachamim, They offered them to be Rav Rashi. They both refused. You know who that was, right? One of them was Gaon of Vilna. They told him, you be Rav Rashi shel Vilna, He told them, I don't want to be, thank you. God bless you. Pick somebody else, I just want to sit home and learn all day. I'm sorry. He didn't. He refused to take it. Right, number one. Also, the Chazon Ish, they say, right? The Chazon Ish, they offered him to be Rav Rashi, He said, what, Rav Rashi? What are you talking about? I'm sitting in my house learning. I don't have time for that. And that's the way it is, right? And by the way, this is the story with Mordechai, Abilshan, Mordechai Tzaddik. What was the thing with him? That they say that when he went into the Malchut, of Achashverosh, so the Chachamim respected him less, they brought him down. Why? Because they said, hey, you went to Malchut, you were Talmid Chacham. What happened with you, Now you became a politician? What's with you, So they didn't believe him anymore, Some of the rabbis separated from him.
In this case, it was Hatzalat Nefashot.
That's what he felt, But what they felt like this. Okay, now you did Hatzalat Nefashot. You finished. Now get out. Finish and get out. But he stayed. And that's all his life he stayed.
But if you get
understand?
out and a new place will come some.
Maybe. We don't know, right? They told him, they said, you did your job, now get out. Otherwise, we don't believe in you, Like Edda Haredit, that's the way we are, We don't want government, we don't want this. We don't want malchut, we don't want nothing. Right? That's the way it is, So some chachamim, they separated from him because of this, So that's the way it is, right? That it brings you down. The malchut brings you down. When you take tafkid tziburi, when you take a job in the community, that's the way it is. So anyway, getting back to what we said, right? So Chizkiyahu came Ishayahu Navi, right? The prophet Ishayahu, Isaiah came to him and said, Listen, what's it to you? You saw in prophecy, you're going to have someone's a Rasha. What's it to you? You do your job, Hashem does his job. What's it to you? What's it your business, what's going to be in the future? You do your job. What does that mean, your job? Do pruvu, get married and then have children. And whatever Hashem will do, he will do. So what did he say, Chizkiyahu Navi? How did he answer Ishayahu? He told him, he says, okay, if you say like that, I'll do. No problem. You're the big rabbi, So I'll do like what you say. You're the prophet. But one thing he says, let's try at least to change the decree if we can. That my son should turn out to be tzaddik, So he says, what we'll do? I'll take, what I'll do? I'll take your daughter to be my wife, So he says, maybe the zchut that you have, that you're a big tzaddik like this, a big prophet, maybe my son will turn out to be tzaddik, right? The father is good, the mother is good from both sides, In v'agefen, im v'agefen. So everything is good. So nevertheless, it didn't work, by the way, Still, came out to be Rasha, Menashe, right? Menashe, he turned out to be Rasha anyway. Just like the prophet said, whatever he said, it happened. But anyway, right, what happened was that once he decided to do teshuvah, Chizkiyahu, right, he did teshuvah, so then they prolonged his life, but otherwise he was going to die right away. Yeah, he's going to die right away. That's the way it was, right? Because Hashem told him, either you get married or you die. That's it, right? One or the other. Pick one, A or B, Two choices you got. Either you're dead or you get married. One or the other. Whatever you like. You want to be a wise guy with me? You want to be a wise guy? You're going to die.
So, Chizkiyahu Melech, he never had the relationship with another woman?
Yeah, Minastam. Yeah, he was holding it, He was holding it, The tzaddikim, they know how to do these things. You understand? The tzaddikim, they're so strong, nothing can shake them up, No masturbation and no playing, like this, playing around, no games, no this, mischakim, blah, 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 nothing.
There was no porn back then.
Thank God. Thank God. So, this is what happened, with Chizkiyahu, So we see from there that a person who doesn't get married, and no chelek in. By the way, Zohar Kadosh talks about this at length,
So he saved his life, but the son
came out bad anyway. Yeah, no matter what. Yeah, yes. Menashe, Yimach Shemo. Well, that's the way it happened. He did tshuva in the end, but still, he did a lot of damage. He did a great deal of damage. They say that the damage that Menashe did, it never was able to be fixed, Even though he did teshuvah for 30 years, he was in teshuvah. 30 years.
Before he was married.
Right. No, I'm sorry. We're talking about his son.
No, the son.
Oh, the
Yeah.
damage.
His son, he was king for 52 years in Israel. 52 years?
The son.
Yeah. In the first 20 years, he was Rasha. And then for 30 years, he was in teshuvah. But nevertheless, they say the damage that he did was so great that he couldn't be fixed anymore. Why is that? He could fix himself, but the problem was that Tzibur was already damaged. The community was damaged already. Everybody has Avodah Zarah, everybody had a church, everybody had an idol, icons, ikonevi, all kinds of things like this, right? That's the way it was.
I don't understand about this idol worship.
Yeah.
We're talking about a time where already Jews had the Torah, had God, whatever, and what made people idol?
There was a big Yetzer Hara for that in those days, for idolatry. Like today, there is, for promiscuity, the big Yetzer Hara for that. Gilui Arayot,
So what were they praying to?
Huh?
They weren't praying to
They had all kinds of idols, all kinds of things, all kinds of names, I don't want to mention all the names, right? By the way, you're not supposed to mention the names of the idols. Okay, whatever, it's a whole story, but anyway, right, going back to what we said. So Chizkiyahu, we see from there how it says the Zohar Kadosh regarding that a person who doesn't get married has no children. He has no portion in the world to come. He has no portion, and he has to come back, and it's very hard to fix it. He has to come back in another Gilgul, but it's very hard to bring him back. Why? Because there's no vehicle to bring him back. Because he didn't have any family, no children, nothing. So he has no place to come back. This is the problem. It's a very big issue. So because of that, Hashem has to make him a very big tikkun, and before that, he's flying around, hovering around, utas ba'avir. He doesn't have a place to land, even to come back in the world.
About those people that they have a wife, but they never had a children.
If the question is if they were able to or not, right? That's one thing, right? If they were not able, lo yachlu, that's patur. Anus rachamana patre, right? Right? He's exempt from that. But we're talking about somebody who was able and didn't want. use contraception, either whatever, like Erev Onan, right? Things like this. That's the idea. So that's why they died. Erev Onan, they both died because of this same reason, same thing, So, so what happened was that says the Zohar Kadosh that this is the punishment of kafakela. It's a famous thing. You probably heard that from Rabbi Tzafi several times. This concept, which is in the Zohar Kadosh, what does that mean? That they throw him around, like a killer, like a slingshot. His neshama goes around. He has no place to land. It's like he's banished, for gadak debulia, Yeah, he can't even. He doesn't have a place to land. So this is one of the worst punishments that a person can get. Why is that? Because he didn't have children. So not having children is a very, very, very big sin, very big thing. No person in the world to come until he fixes that, and to fix it is very, very hard. He has to come back like twice, to fix it up.
So what's the difference between, let's say, kafakela and chivut hakever?
Chivut hakever is for different sins. That's for different sins, right? Chivut hakever. Kafakela is for this sin that you didn't have children, and it's much worse than chivut hakever. Because chivut hakever is only zmani. It's only like a few minutes, But this we're talking about for a long, long, long time, generations, right? God knows. Okay, that's the idea. Shem should help us.
The chivut hakever, everybody must to pass.
They say that there's ways to get around it, right? There's segulot, like doing melava malka, there's all kinds of things. They say that melava malka saves you from chivut hakever. How important it is to do melava malka, by the way? How important that is, right? There's all kinds of schiyut like that. We'll talk about that, B'ezras Hashem, one time. We'll discuss that. That's a very good question. So anyway, right? Yeah. Yes. There's all kinds of segulot. Yeah, I have to get into that stuff and see. Flax, linen, right? Linen shrouds. Okay, interesting. So anyway, right? In order to now, why did I tell you all this? Because in order to get married, a person has to do the marriage the proper way. So what I want to do is make a little bit illustration over here, right? How to do the marriage. Now, the truth is, that what I'm telling you now is just the short version of this, because you have to also learn the halachot as well, So a person shouldn't just say, oh, I saw the rabbi, he said some things how to do marriage, so we'll do everything ourselves. You still have to learn the halachot, that are involved. But anyway, a person should know these halachot just in a short form, to know what he's doing when he comes to chuppah, when he comes to get married. He has to know what he's doing.
But by the halacha, if also, let's say, if two people want to get married,
yes,
and they have two witnesses,
yes,
and the man give a ring
to the woman,
and he say Ariad Mekudeshet,
right,
automatically she's Mekudeshet.
Right, we're going to talk about that right now. We're going to get into it. Okay, so let's go a little bit step by step. So the way it works is like this, right? That when a person gets married, there's two steps to marriage. The first one is called erusin. Where is it brought down? Masechet Kiddushin, the Gemara Kiddushin. Right over there it says there's erusin and then there's nisuin. There's two steps to marriage, right? So how do we do erusin today? There's different ways in the Gemara that they do erusin. But today what we do is we give a ring, right? This is the way erusin is done. So what does that mean? You give her a ring, and by that you acquire her to be your wife. This is right? It's kinyan. It's an acquisition. You're acquiring her like that, right? That's the way it works. So in order to understand, right, how we do that today, so the first thing we do is like this, right? The rabbis made a bracha for this also. In other words, according to the Torah, you don't need a blessing for this. You don't need a bracha, But the rabbis made brachot for many things, right? That's the way it works. So here also, they made a special bracha for everything. By the way, it says Zohar Kadosh something interesting about this, Zohar Kadosh says that it's a very important thing to say this bracha berusin. Why? Because otherwise, you're enjoying your wife, you're enjoying her, and with no bracha, and that's no good, you're taking something without a bracha, like eating a food without bracha, right? Same thing for a woman. To enjoy the pleasure of being with that woman, you should have to bless a bracha. So which bracha is that? The bracha of erusin. That's what we're talking about, right? Yeah. So they made a special bracha for that. But also they said another thing, which is you should also do it with wine. We do kiddush with wine, or havdalah. Also here you're supposed to do it with wine, because you're being mekadesh. You're sanctifying, right? It's also kiddush.
It's supposed to be red wine, yeah.
the best way to do it. It's the best way to do it. If you use white wine, kosher, but lechatchila, try to use red. Yes, of course. Just like for kiddush, Yeah, just like for kiddush, of course. So what we do is like this, right? The first thing is like this. Comes the rabbi, right, who's mesader kiddushin. He's the one who's doing the kiddushin. So the first thing he does is that he has to make a blessing. He takes a cup of wine, right? And he says, Sabri mananan, baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, borei pri hagefen. That's the first thing he does, right? That's the way it works. So then, once he makes that blessing, now he has to tell the chatan and kala, when he does this, right, that they have to be mitkaven, they have to have the intention to hear his bracha and to be yotzei yedei chova, to fulfill the obligation.
Yeah.
Because really the truth is, right, that this bracha is not for the rabbi, it's for the chatan. The chatan is supposed to be saying it. You know what I mean? So why is the rabbi doing it? Because he's like a shliach. You understand? He's doing like shlichut. That's what it is, But the truth is that who really should be doing it? The chatan should be doing it, but we don't do it this way. We do it like everybody does it with a rabbi. Whatever. That's the way it is, right? So therefore, the rabbi has to tell them, remember, right? Have in mind, you, chatan and kala, this bracha is for you. It's not for me, right? I'm not making it for myself. This is for you. You're getting married, so you have to have intention to say, right? You'll say the chovat to fulfill the intention. You have to tell them like that. So you make borei pri hagefen, right? And then you make the bracha of erusin. What's the bracha of erusin? How does it work? How does it go? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al harayot, v'yasar lanu et ha'arusot, right? V'hitir lanu et hanesuot, lanu al yedei chuppah v'kiddushin, Baruch atah Hashem, mekadesh et amo Yisrael al yedei chuppah v'kiddushin. This is the bracha, right? So what happens now?
This one the rabbi said.
Right, this is right. But really, as we said, it's really the chatan's bracha. But he's being a shliach for him. He's being an agent for him. This is the way it works, right? So he makes his bracha. So now they have to taste it, right? So the custom by the Sephardim is that the rabbi also tastes it. He tastes it, and then he gives it to chatan. Now, once he gives it to the chatan, the problem is that they're not married yet fully. So he can't give it to the kala. So what does he do? Give it right exactly to some other person, and he's gonna give to the kala.
So why they say you don't give to the father of the kala? Why they give most of the time to the mother of the kala?
Because we want that the woman should give her. It's better. It's more tzanua. More tzniut. That's the idea. It doesn't really matter so much. To be honest with you, it's more tzanua. When the woman gives her. Yeah, it's more Jewish. Right? Masoret שלנו,
כי אתה בסופו של דבר החתן נותן את זה לחמה.
Right, yes. Or he can give it to a man, and the man will give it to Chama, right? And the Chama will give to the whatever, something like that, right? You get the idea. Yeah. But don't give it directly. That's the idea, right? That's what we don't want. Okay, very good. So what happens is, right, that everybody has to drink. The rabbi first drinks according to the Sephardi custom, then the chatan, and then the kala drink. They both drink. I think the rabbi does not drink with the Ashkenazim. No? There are different customs. Different customs.
So in Chabad,
yeah. Chabad is something else. Chabad, they do something like half like Sephardim, The hybrid model, like your car is hybrid, some cars. Chabad is like a hybrid, they do some Sephardi, some Ashkenazi, mishmash, Yeah. When the Hasidim started their movement, 250 years ago, they wanted to be really Sephardi. That's what they really wanted, So then they made like a pshara, They went like 50% Sephardi, 50% Ashkenazi. They made like a shatnez.
So what, the Abba Shem Tov tried to go by the Sephardi way?
The original idea of the Sephardim, the Hasidim, was to be Sephardi. That's what they really wanted.
But Amagil Mezrich and all these tzaddikim was coming from Europe, from the Ashkenazi.
Absolutely, but they felt that the Sephardi way was the real way. And by the way, there's a reason for this. Why they say, right? Because many of the Admorim from the Hasidim, they were descended from Sephardim. They came from Spain. Because when there was the expulsion, the Inquisition, right? There was many Jews that were expelled from there, and 20,000 of them went to Poland. So they became Ashkenazi. So a lot of these Admorim, their Yuchus is Sephardi. They come from Sephardim, from Spain. Their original family. That's the idea. So that was the whole idea. Okay, so whatever. But anyway, the point is right that yeah.
Baal Shem Tov was before Girush Sfarad.
He was after. It was after. Girush Sfarad was 500 years ago.
Baal Shem Tov was after.
250 years ago. Yeah, it's a different generation altogether. So now, right, Girush of Sfarad, you know when that was? In the time of Mahan Bet Yosef. 500 years ago, that's when it was.
Like what, in the
1500s.
Ari Kadosh time?
Yeah, that time. Yeah.
Rabbi Moshe Kol
Yes. Because Maran was thrown out from there. He left. That's why he left.
Yeah.
This whole thing. Yeah. That was the Girush Sfarad. That was the time. Okay. Anyway, right. So what happened was that let's get back to our discussion, right? So now, do they have to drink Revi'it, right? 80 ounce, 80 cubic milliliters. They don't have to drink, right? Revi'it. Just take a taste. Each one takes a taste. There's no. It's not like Kiddush. You have to drink Rov Revi'it or Revi'it. Doesn't work like that. Just taste it, right? That's the idea. Okay, so then what happens is now we do the ring, right? So what happens is that the Chatan has to have a ring. The custom is, by the way, the ring should be silver, not gold. Even though you can use gold if you want, but the best way to do is silver. There's reasons for that, right? And no stones, right? No diamonds.
Halak.
Just a halak ring, silver ring, right? Pure silver. That's the best way to do it. If you did gold, it's okay, no problem. We'll let you slide on that. We'll let you slide. It's only minhag, right? So custom is to do silver. So what happens is that now you have to make sure, right, that before we do this giving of the ring, we have to make sure that the edim, the witnesses, are watching, right? Because as you said, right in the beginning, you need two witnesses to be watching this, because if they don't see it, it's not kosher, right? So you need two witnesses to watch that, the giving of the ring. So you have to tell them, before you start, put the sim lev, right? Pay attention to what they're doing. They're going to give the ring now, and this is going to be the erusin. This is going to be the kiddushin. That's the way it works, right? So they're going to give the ring, and the witnesses have to be watching that very carefully. They have to be there, not 20 miles away somewhere else, down the hall, eating smorgasbord, They have to be there, right there on the spot. They have to watch what's going on. And they have to be together, not like one from here, one from there. They can't see each other. Has to make sure that they're together. They're watching the giving of the ring. So the custom is like this, right? That before, you've probably seen this in weddings. If you go to several weddings, the Chatan, I'm sorry, not the Chatan, the Rabbi, you know what he says, right? He shows the ring to the witnesses, right? Shaveh Pruta. Why does he ask him this question? What's the reason why he asked him this question? So the reason is because if it's not Pruta, what does that mean, Pruta? Today, Pruta is like a quarter, like a 1 shekel. It's like a Pruta today. The value that it was in those days. Something like that, right? So if it's not worth that much, it's not going to do the Kiddushin. It's not going to do it. It's not going to work. Zelo Yachul. So therefore, you have to make sure that it's worth something, right? You didn't get it from some bubblegum machine. You know what I mean? Right. Or 9 cents, right? Something like that, right? So, yeah. Some plastic, some plastic toy. We don't want to do Kiddushin with that. It has to be something which is valuable. Okay, so we show it to them. The witness is Shaveh Pruta. So what does it mean? They have to see that it's worth something. Whatever. This is the reason why the Rabbi does that. So then what happens is the Chatan, by the way, it has to belong to the Chatan, this ring. That's right. Why is that? Because if it doesn't belong to him, he cannot do Kiddushin with somebody else's ring. So, don't bring your mother's ring, and give it to the So what should you do? If your mother wants to give you the ring, right? First tell her to give it to you as a gift, and then you can do what you want. But it has to belong to you when you,
that you buy the ring from the mother?
You don't have to really buy it. You can take it also as a matana, Huh? Yeah, you can take it as a matana, no problem. But it has to belong to you, Don't say, I'll take my mother's ring and I'll give it to her. No, first let her give it to you, and then you give it to her. That's the way it works, right? So make sure you have to understand that. Okay, very good. So, by the way, we need kosher witnesses for this, right? We already know what I'm talking about, right? By the way, when we came here to America 40, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it was, a lot of people were making a big mistake with this, that they were doing weddings, and the witnesses were not kosher, they were not Shomer Shabbat. They have to be Shomer Shabbat. What does that mean? They don't drive on Shabbat, They're not shaving with a razor, with the
But
ta'ar.
those mistakes, it's happening right now also.
Right, but in those days, it was like, even the rabbis didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing. So they were using people like that, who are Mechalel Shabbat and things like this. Unfortunately, we have many people who got married like this. So
The ketubah is not.
So the chuppah is not kosher. So then what are they going to tell you in Shemaim? You never got married. What happened to you? Whatever. So you know what it is, right? He's pilegesh. Like he's pilegesh. He has a girlfriend. You had a girlfriend for 50 years. You never got married with her. Okay, whatever. That's a different story, right? But anyway, you have to make sure you get kosher witnesses. So what makes them kosher? Number one, that
There is one class,
Yeah.
Rabbi Michali, not non-kosher witnesses.
Yes.
If you want to divorce.
Oh.
You don't want to give her a get.
Right.
Because of that,
Yeah,
you
we can get her out. Yes. It's
you
very
can
true.
get out.
This is the best way to get her out, by the way,
Yeah.
what you were saying.
Yeah.
Very good. The Bet Din, they know all these tricks. They know how to do all these tricks.
Yeah.
So now, right, what happens is like this. You're gonna, as we said, right, you make sure the witnesses are kosher. So what else makes them kosher besides the fact that they're religious? There's another thing, which is they cannot be relatives, cousins, uncles, nephew,
Relatives to
things
the
like
Chatan
this.
Kala.
Huh?
Relatives to the Chatan Kala.
Exactly, both of them, right? They cannot be related, or also to each other.
Uh-huh.
The two witnesses cannot be related to each other either.
Uh-huh.
So you have to have two witnesses. They're not related to each other, no relationship there, and also not related to the Khatan, also not related to the Kala. Has to be all these things. Otherwise, it's no good.
What's the reason for that?
Because relatives cannot testify according to the Torah, and the rabbis added more isurim on this. They added more, but the reason is because they favor you. The relative is like as a favor. He favors you. He likes you. So he's gonna say things which are maybe not so true.
Uh-huh.
He's gonna favor you. We want somebody who's impartial. Somebody who can be just a regular guy. No
So
love.
If you want to call, let's say, to those edim, and
Yeah.
they are already in Olam Haba, what to do?
Ooh, you mean you already did the wedding a long time ago?
Yeah.
So you have to do another chuppah. Yeah. You gotta do another chuppah. You gotta do another wedding. Lead Palace, $220. No problem. You can do downstairs in the shul, no problem, right? No problem. Stay there, right? Whatever. Just make sure you do the chuppah. Okay, so what happens like this, right? Now witnesses are kosher, religious, shomer Shabbat. They don't shave with a razor, right? Everything is good, Baruch Hashem. Not related to one to each other or whatever, to the Chatan Kala. Okay, fine. And they're watching the whole thing, right? So now what happens is that, as we said, the Chatan will take the ring, right? And before he gives it to her, don't give it to her right away, on her finger, buch, Don't be so fast, right? First, you have to say this, right? What do you say? Hariyat mekudeshet li b'tabad zo kedat Moshe v'Yisrael. Right, what does that mean? By the way, if he doesn't speak Hebrew, this guy, or the Kala doesn't speak Hebrew, you should say it in English, whatever. The language you understand, Russian, whatever it is, right? Georgian, whatever it is. Because you have to understand what they're doing. You have to understand what he's telling you. What is he telling you? What? To go jump in the lake he's telling you? He's not telling you that. You have to make sure you have to know what he's saying, right? So, what happens, right? You have to say, in English, right? You are hereby betrothed to me with this ring, like the law of Moses in Israel, right? Whatever, Moses, right? Moshe, right? So once you say that, you take the ring and you put it on her finger, right? Which finger should you put it on? The best is the index finger. But they say you can also do it on this one, right? If you don't, This is only minhag. Even if you put it, let's say, on this one, it's okay, kosher. But the best thing is to put it on this one, that's the custom, or this one, whatever, right? One of these, this is the best way to do it. Okay, so that's the way it works, right? So once they did that, right, now they're already mekudashim. So what does that mean? They're already married halfway, 50%, right? So what does that mean? Now, if they want to get separated, and he has to give her a get because she's already betrothed.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Very good. So now, what's the next part, right? The custom is what? Now, minhag is that we read the ketubah. We read the ketubah. Why do we do that, by the way? What's the reason to read the ketubah? Nobody understands anyway what it says. So what's the point in it, right? So what they say, right? The poskim, they say the reason why the custom is to read the ketubah is because the witnesses have to know what they're signing on. They have to know what the purpose is. They have to know what's in the contract. It's a contract. So you gotta know what you're talking about. So if you don't read it, how are you not gonna know what sits there? This is the reason why we do the reading ketubah. By the way, if they didn't read the ketubah, it's kosher the wedding or not? It's kosher. It's kosher.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kosher. Yeah, it's not doesn't hold back the wedding. It's a custom. It's minhag. It's good minhag to do like that. Most people do it. There are some communities, by the way, I heard they don't do it. They don't read the ketubah. It's okay, by the way. Yeah, it's only minhag. It's not really halacha to read them. To read the ketubah. But most people do it, Okay, very good. And then according to Sephardi custom, what happens is, what they do? The witnesses will sign on the ketubah. You need 2 witnesses, right? At least. They will sign on the ketubah. Once the ketubah was read. Now they know what's in there, right? More or less, right? And now they sign the ketubah. They're the witnesses.
When the rabbi is reading the ketubah, the signature of the witness is already there.
Oh, so now we got to
They do this before.
Right. So we got to now the machloket between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim, right? What the Ashkenazim do they sign the ketubah before, like you said, right? But the Sfaradim they sign after they read the ketubah. This is the difference between Sfaradim. Yes. Custom of the Sfaradim is that they sign right there at the chuppah. Right there. Why is that? By the way, this is a better minhag than the Ashkenazim. Why better? Because if you don't read it, you don't know what's in there. So first you got to read it. So why are you signing something which you didn't read? So it's more logical like that. That's the idea. No? Okay. So very good.
Because in the Sfaradim, any Sfaradi I went, in the ketubah was already with the signature. And the rabbi was making the ketubah.
So that means that the rabbi was meshuknaz. He doesn't know Sephardi halacha.
Wow.
You understand? Unfortunately, most of the rabbis are meshuknazim. They don't know these things. So it's okay, by the way. It's kosher. It's kosher, but the minhag of Sephardim is not like that. You have to know. Right?
Very good.
Okay.
It's like Shalom, it's like any other profession. It's very hard to find a real professional. It's hard to find a great mechanic. It's hard to find a great rabbi. No? That's what life taught me. I don't know.
So now, right, what's the story over here? So what happens over here now? Now we're done with the Erusin, right? We're done. The ketubah has been signed. By the way, what we do, the Sfaradim, also Ashkenazim, everybody, before we start this ceremony, we first sit down, with the rabbi, the witnesses, and the chatan. And the kala doesn't really need to be there. She doesn't need to be there. But what we do is, we fill out the ketubah, the blanks, we have to fill it out. So a person has to know how to do this, by the way, to study the halachot, of how to fill out the ketubah, This is also something which needs to be, if you don't know how to do it, don't play around, don't play games. Make sure first you learn the halachot, how to fill out the ketubah, and also what's a proper ketubah, what kind of ketubah you should use.
You make before,
I just did one like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
On Lag Baumer.
Wow.
You know where it was? At the Ohel.
Wow.
Yes. Ashkenazim, yes.
Is that the first one you've done?
No, not really the first one. But the first one I've done since I've been in America. Let's put it this way.
Oh, okay.
Since I've been in America. So I came back from Israel. So now, let's discuss it a little bit, right? So
by the Sfaradi or Ashkenazi?
we do everything Sephardi, Baruch Hashem. Like Maran told us, like it says in the books, Yebi Omer, Yakut Yosef, all the things. So now I want to tell you another thing, right? That before this all started, as we filled out the ketubah, as we said. So according to, as we said, the Sephardi custom is not to sign it then, to sign it at the chuppah. So here, there's also another thing, that you have to do when you're reading the ketubah. Right? There's a word over there in the ketubah which is kinyana. Kinyana, So when you get to the word kinyana, what does kinyana mean? Kinyan, to acquire, acquisition. Right? So what you do is you have to take like a handkerchief or a pen, something like that, right? And You know what I mean? Yeah.
אתה מחזיק את זה, נותן
Right.
לך-
You give it to the Khatan, right.
הוא מחזיק את זה,
What's the reason for that? What's the reason why they do that? Because it gives you, you acquire the ketubah for the kala. You know? He's giving it to you. Right? So you give him, and he's giving you the contents of the ketubah. It's like a trade, you know? That's the idea. So, you have to do that. And by the way, also the Sephardim have a different custom also, which the Ashkenazim don't do. You know? They do over here, hashba'ah chamura. You know what that is? They do make him take like an oath, you know, like a oath, shvu'ah, that he's not going to take another wife, or he's not going to cheat on her, you know, and things like this, right? All kinds of things, all kinds of things that he cannot do. He cannot leave Eretz Israel, live somewhere else. There's all kinds of things. So they have to. He's going to support her. He's going to give her whatever she deserves to get. All these things, right? He won't deny her anything. He does a shvuah chamura over there, according to the custom of the Sephardim. The Ashkenazim don't do the shvuah chamura. They don't do it. They're afraid of it. If you tell them this, they'll say, "Oh, shvuah chamura." Why? Because they say, you know, that it makes you liable now even more. You're breaking a shvuah if you don't do it. But the truth is, you know, the Sephardim had this customary to do shvuah chamura a long, long time, going back 500 years more and more. Right?
So a lot of times it's depend also problems with the money on the ketubah.
Yeah. They
You
what?
want to put more money, and the Khatan said no.
Right.
Was a problem.
He's not required to give more than the minimal amount that has to be given, right? How much has to be given, by the way? If she's a betula, if she's a virgin, you have to give her 200 zuz, you know, which is like coins, you know, the shekels. You know?
How much is it by the our money?
It's a machloket, by the way, you know. But what I saw, everything is machloket, right? Everything is machloket. There's a shita of the Chazon Ish who says something very high amount, like, you know, like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. You know, but according to the other shita, which is the halacha, according to Maran, it's like about $2,000 shalom. Something more normal.
Money.
Right, exactly, yeah. 200 zuz, about $2,000.
2,000.
Not the end of the world, right? This is the halacha, by the way.
So if you put it, let's say some people put $180,000.
They add.
200,000.
Yeah, to show off, you know, to brakoven, you know.
After
It just-
this time taken, you need to pay.
Yeah, if you said you have to pay, yeah, if you wrote it, you gotta pay. You know, so don't open your mouth something you don't want to do.
So for me, it's not worth
Yeah?
it to get the divorce.
Okay. So it's not worth it for nobody, believe me. Unless you got a bad deal, you know, chatul shachor, you know, that's something else, right? You got a raw deal, you know, that's something else. Okay, you know what I say, right? If a person has a bad wife, it's a mitzvah to divorce her. You know, that's what it says in the Gemara, Masechet Gittin. Where do we learn that? From Mishlei, right? What does it say? Garesh letz v'tetzeh madon. That's what it says, right?
How do you determine if she's bad or you're bad? I mean, you may think she's bad.
That means she goes and hangs around with men, you know, swims with men, you know, with a bikini, you know, things like this. She's not sanua. She's not chaste.
When you finish
Yeah.
the class today, I will
Yeah.
tell you a story, a joke about this.
Okay, you got- okay. You know, she's not modest, you know, immodest behavior, you know, which means that eventually something will happen, you know. Yeah, you know, one of those, you know. Which is kal, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
So if she's screaming at home and making your life miserable this way, that's acceptable.
Well, that's already your decision, if you can handle her or not, you know, that's already your decision.
Okay.
But when it comes to, but no, there are also things, you know, which a woman can have bad midot, bad character also. There are things like that. Yeah, there are provisions like that as well. And it's not only just, you know, for modesty, it's also for bad character as well. You're right. You know, what's a bad character? Gemara says, you know, a woman who, like, you know, she'll like cook you with dinner, you know, and she'll, you know, put it on your plate, you know, and she won't even sit with you, you know, to talk with you, you know. She'll turn around and walk away, you know, like, gaipara, you know. A woman like this, you know, she won't even talk with you, you know. She hates you so much, she can't even speak with you when you're eating.
What does it say about her rights if you're the jerk?
There's also rights to there as well. Yeah, of course. Yeah, everybody has their own rights. By the way, the whole point of the ketubah is the woman's rights. There's no rights over there for the man. Everything is for the woman. That's the whole point, right?
Protect the woman.
Yeah, protect the woman. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Right? It protects her very, very well, by the way, you know, relatively speaking. I mean, we can't do everything.
And who wrote the ketubah? Some New York judge and
No.
some liberal
No.
Jew?
No, chas v'shalom. Lehavdil. So, let's go on, right? So now, as we said, right, we did already ketubah, we're done with that. So what happens after that? We finished the erusin. Now the chatan is going to put on talit. New talit has to be. Why has to be new talit? Because you have to make shechianu, right? If it's old talit, there's no shechianu. You can say that litatef b'tzitzit if it's still daytime. If it's night, you can't say that either.
Yes.
So, by the way, one person who's getting married in our community was asking me, what about if it's like about shkia time, sundown? Should you make the bracha or not on the talit? So halacha is, that until tzit kochavim, which is like 15 minutes after the sun goes down, you can still make the bracha. Litatef b'tzitzit. Because it's still not night yet. In the summer I'm talking about. In the winter it's a little bit less, like 11 minutes, 10 minutes. The day is shorter. So you still have time after the sun goes down, another 15 minutes in the summer. You can still do litatef b'tzitzit. But anyway, even if it's night, right? Like we Georgians, we do everything late, right? You know how we are, right? Every chuppah that we do is always like late. Right, yeah. In the wee hours, in the cocktail hours. So what happens is, right, that there's no litatef b'tzitzit, but you have to make shechianu. Why? Because it's a new talit. What's the reason, by the way, we want to do this shechianu? It's because he has to have in mind all the new things that he's acquiring now to make a bracha shechianu. His wife, his furniture, his new car, right, that his father-in-law bought him, nice Cadillac, got him, whatever. All these things, all the new things that he bought, all the good stuff that he got in the marriage, this shechianu is going to be poter, everything, is going to fulfill the obligation. Because shechianu means, what does that mean? You're blessing Hashem for giving you all these good things, these new things, all these new toys that you got. Right? That's
married a poor girl.
Well, to each his own, right? To each his own.
Your father-in-law giving you a Cadillac, you need to say shechianu.
Yeah, you have to say also on the wife, the wife also. You got married, it's also. Okay, whatever, it's the whole thing, But anyway, the point is, right, we do shechianu, talit. So then right away what happens is he takes it off. He doesn't keep the talit on. Why is that? Because now we spread it over them, like a chuppah, we make a canopy over them. So each one is holding in the corner, a portion of talit. Why do we do that, by the way? Because some say that the nisuin, the last part of the marriage, the chuppah, is this, that you hold your talit over them. This is the chuppah. So, according to that shita, we have to spread the talit over them like that, right? So when we do Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings that we're going to do, right? With the nisuin, you have to have the talit spread over them in order to do the chuppah, according to this opinion. The truth is, according to Rambam, that's not the chuppah. The chuppah is something else, right? What's the chuppah according to Rambam? Rambam holds the chuppah is when you take her to your house, and do yichud, to seclude yourself. Once you take her to your house and you do yichud, this is the chuppah, according to Rambam. So what does that mean? By the way, this is the halakha. The halakha is like that. So what does that mean? If you let's say, did the whole wedding, right? You did everything, but she still didn't do yichud. They didn't do yichud yet to lock themselves in a room. She can still not cover her hair because she's still not married fully. So she could go out and dance, in the chuppah without covering her hair. But once they did yichud, they have to cover their hair. So now this is the difference between the Ashkenazim and Sfaradim, right? That the Ashkenazim, what they do is right after the chuppah, they do yichud room, they seclude them in a room, right? So what does that mean? Once they lock them in there, right, for a few minutes, that's like they did already yichud, so that now she has to cover her hair. So according to the Ashkenazi custom that they do yichud, she has to cover her hair right after the yichud room, right after. They're already fully married. But according to the Sephardi custom that they don't do yichud, by the way, this is also another thing, Meshuknazim, the rabbis are Meshuknaz, they tell them to go into yichud. Because they think that they learn everything Ashkenazi way. They don't know Sephardi customs. They learn the minhag Sephardi. So what happens is that but the real minhag Sephardi is what? We don't do yichud, we don't seclude them over there at the wedding. They go home and they do it at home.
After the wedding.
Yeah, and you don't need witnesses for that. Don't say chedim. You don't need edim. You just go home, take her home, lock the door, you're done. That's the way it is, right? Or your hotel room, whatever it is you're taking her, right? You're taking her to a hotel room, whatever it is you're taking her, you lock the door, you're in, that's it, right? You're finished with that. Okay. So, before that, right, before this whole thing, I just wanted to tell you, right, that this is the reason why we put the talit over them. Because according to some opinions, this is the chuppah, right? So we have to do that. According to that opinion. But the halacha is bemet that taking her home is really the chuppah. And by the way, this is the reason why Ashkenazim, they do something else before they start the chuppah, before they start the whole thing, the whole ceremony, they do bedekin. You know, something which is called bedekin. They call it in Yiddish. What does that mean? That the kala is sitting, at the corner, and the chatan goes over to her and covers her with the veil, right? So why is that? Because there are also shitot, there are also opinions that say that's the chuppah. So to cover this, so there's three opinions we're covering, right? One is that the bedekin is the chuppah, according to Ashkenazim. The Sephardim, they don't do that, by the way. Some Sephardim do like the meshuknaz, if they're meshuknaz, they do. That's the idea. They're turned to be Ashkenazim. So some Sephardim, they do that, but most of them, they don't, especially in Israel, they don't do it. So that's one opinion, right? But that's not the halakha. Second opinion is that the chuppah is when you put the talit over them. That's the chuppah, right? So that's the second opinion. The third opinion, as we said, right, according to Rambam, is when you take her home, or you take her to the hotel room, whatever it is, right? So the halakha is like the Rambam, Maaseh. But we to cover all the opinions, just in case, we want to be a little bit machmir, So we try to do this opinion, right? That's the idea. That's the way it works. This is the reason why we do all these things. Okay, very good. So now, what we do is like this, right? We already drank from the cup for the erusin, right? We already drank. The rabbi, the chatan, the kala. So now what happens is that we fill up the cup again, because they already drank from it. It's called pagum, right? Pagum is like you can't make a kiddush on something which is pagum, lacking.
Yes.
So you have to add some wine to it or add some water to it, to fill it up until the end. So it should be a full cup. And now on this cup, they're going to do now Sheva Brachot, which is the erusin part, the nisuin, right? Which is the chuppah. By the way, the truth is, halakha says like this. Let's say they didn't do Sheva Brachot, and they just went home. Are they married or not?
Yeah.
That's the question. They're married.
Yeah.
So these brachos are not me'akev. They don't hold back the chuppah. But it's proper to do it, But to do this Sheva Brachot, the 7 blessings, what do you need? You need a minyan. For the first bracha, not so much, Not so much. 2 people is enough. But for this one, for the Sheva Brachot, you need bemet a minyan, right? Otherwise you cannot do Sheva Brachot. So you have to have 10 men over there for the Sheva Brachot. If you don't have, don't make it.
You don't need to make
Skip it, So what should you do, by the way? You can do it later. You can do it tomorrow. Whenever you get a minyan, you can do it. You can do it later also.
All the 7 days?
Huh?
All the 7 days?
Yes.
After 7 days also you can do or not?
I don't think so. I'll check that. I'll check that. But I think it's impossible to do it. But it may be possible. I have to check that. But anyway, right? The way it works is like this. It may be possible to do it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I don't recall. So anyway, right? Getting back to what we said. So now they fill up the wine again, right? So the rabbi now will take that wine, right? And again, he's going to make what? Borei Pri Gefen. Sorry, Banan. Because that Borei Gefen was psek. There was interruption there. They have to make another one. That's the way it works. So once they make the bracha, right, then they're going to do Sheva Brachot. So what are the Sheva Brachot? Let's just go through them, right, just to know what they are. The 7 blessings. The first one is Borei Pri Gefen. That's the first one. Then, right, Yotzer Hadam. I'm sorry, no. Shakol bara lichvodo. Number 2, right? Then Yotzer Hadam. So it's like this. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Shakol bara lichvodo. Number 3. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Yotzer Hadam. Number 4. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Asher יצר את האדם בצלמו, בצלם דמות ותבניתו, והתקין לו ממנו בניין עזר עד עד. ברוך אתה השם, יוצר האדם. Right? Then, next one. סוס תסיך ותסיס תגל הכלה, בקיבוץ בניה לתוכה במהרה ובשמחה. ברוך אתה השם, משמח ציון בבניה. Right? Okay. So that's number 5. Number 6. שמח תשמח רעים נאורים, כי שמחך יצילך בגן עדן מקדם. ברוך אתה השם, משמח חתן וכלה. That's number 6. Number 7. ברוך אתה השם אלוקים מלך העולם, אשר ברא ששון ושמחה, חתן וכלה, גילה בגינה, דיצה וחדווה, אהבה והרחבה, שלום ורעות. מהרה אדוני לאלוהינו וישמע בערי יהודה ובחוצות ירושלים, כל ששון וכל שמחה, כל חתן וכל כלה, כל מצלות חתנים מחופתם, ונערים משמחת ונגינתם. ברוך אתה השם, Mesameach hachatan im hakala. Right, that's the idea. So once you finish the Sheva Brachot, they're now fully, right, ceremony is over. Now you can go and dance, whatever you want to do, right? Have a seudah. Exactly, right. It's not, we're going to get that, but what I'm saying is in terms of the Nisuin, you're done. Right, exactly. The wedding is over. Now the next part is just to do zecher for the Churban. So what do, they take a glass, right, and they cover it with something, so it shouldn't shatter. And they break the glass. This is to remember the Churban, the Beit HaMikdash. Right, because they say every time you have a simcha, every time you have a happy occasion, you should also remember the Churban. Do something to remember the Churban. That's why some people, by the way, have the custom, before they start the chuppah also, the Ashkenazim, what they do, they put efer, they put ashes on the head of the chatan, where the tefillin goes, to remember the Churban also. Now, Sfarim don't do that. Different customs.
And in Chabad,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
before the chuppah,
Yeah.
the mothers of the chatan and the kala,
Yeah.
they take a plate,
Yes.
and they break the plate on the floor.
Ooh. Okay, I got that. There's all kinds of customs like that.
There's also something to the connection to the
Yeah.
Churban.
Maybe possible. Yes. Okay, so now, right, all we do is like this, right? Before we get to the issue of, right, what we do after, once you did the Sheva Brachot, now we have to drink the wine, right? So what happens? First the rabbi drinks, right, again, right? Then the chatan. Now the chatan can give it straight to the kalai, right? Because they're already married.
She's white.
That's it, right? Give it straight to the chatan. Unless she's nida. Sometimes it happens, right? That before the chuppah, she becomes nida. If she's nida, I cannot give it straight to her. They give her also roundabout, right? It happens, by the way, sometimes.
But
That yeah.
if you don't give her,
Yeah.
so the people will realize right away.
That's okay. What can you do? It's halakha, What can we do? That's the way it is. People don't care so much about these things. They don't care so much. Whatever. They're too worried about what they can eat now. Chicken and chicken wings and corned beef.
Yeah, in this case, everybody thinking about food.
When you did the ceremony,
Yeah.
Rabbi, for this
Yeah.
couple,
Yeah.
you did it a long way or a short way? Like,
There's only one way to do it. You can't cut corners. You know what I mean?
because when Abraham did married me,
Yeah. I'm done with that.
no, he goes to me, how did you like the ceremony? He goes,
Yeah.
I didn't prolong it, I did it short and
Ooh.
nice.
Yeah, he's talking about something else. You know what he's talking about? He's not talking about the ceremony itself.
Yeah.
He's talking about the singing, to sing you some songs,
Singing.
Oh.
to be chazan, chazanut, That's what he meant to say. By the way, it's interesting what you mentioned that, right? The truth is, the rabbi, in most places is not the chazan. They have a separate chazan who sings,
Mm-hmm.
But by us, the Georgians, he's the rabbi, he's the chazan, he's every. By the way, in the old days, with the Georgians, I heard, in the old generations, the rabbi did everything, He was the rabbi, he was the chazan, he was the Baal Koreh, he was the mohel, he was the sofer, The rabbi did everything, everything, jack of all trades. Now it's not like that, right?
You remember
Today it's different.
The odd couple episode when they go away on a vacation. The guy at the airplane pilot, which takes them, he's also the band leader over there. He's also the baggage carrier. It was the funny. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't know.
The funniest thing.
Okay,
It's one of
your
those-
memory is much better than mine.
Yeah.
Okay, as we already mentioned, but anyway, right? So what happens now is like this, as we mentioned. I want to tell you, because sometimes you need to know these halakha. Let's say, for instance, as we said, right? They didn't do the Sheva Brachot, as we mentioned, right? They just went home, so they're married. That's it, they're married. Just you should know that. So what does that mean? Once you did the erusin, you gave the ring, right? And let's say you didn't do the nisuin, with all these things, the trimmings, just went home, you're married. That's it. You're done, right? According to Rambam, that's which is the halakha. So just so you should know that, right? As we said, right? You can make the Sheva Brachot later, right? As we said. So now what we do is, right? The chatan will take that cup, which is meant to be broken. It's on the floor. So he's going to say before he breaks it, he breaks the cup, right? And that's the word done, right? Mazel tov, right?
Mazel tov.
By the way, they say that you should know, I saw in the book, in the Yokut Yosef, he writes, that when they break the cup, don't say right away Mazel Tov. Well, because it seems like, you were saying Mazel Tov for the breaking, which is not really the thing, because the breaking is for Churban, to remember the Churban. What are you saying Mazel Tov? Well, you're remembering the Churban, so you should wait a little bit and then say Mazel Tov. Okay, a little big.
Do you think in our Georgian community that got married?
Yeah.
Know that that's for the Churban?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's why we're making the video to educate them, David. That's the whole point, right?
Everybody knows.
Okay, so we should have B'ezrat Hashem Rak Smachot B'Yisrael. Only Smachot, only good occasions. Amen ve'amen. Chazak u'baruch. Thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness, and all the cars that you desire. B'ezrat Hashem. Amen ve'amen.
Rabbi, did you do Shoshana ceremony yet?